When I polled my viewers on which of 4 topics I should turn into a fighting game concept, Pokemon Gym Leaders won pretty handily, and I can see why. I've always felt the gym leader designs in Pokemon could do more than just command Pokemon and give worldly advice, and some of them do, but not to a point where we would normally see them step into the arena for some of their own hand-to-hand combat. Some of these characters are even trained fighters, so why waste that potential? The Pokemon got a fighting game with Pokken, now let's give the gym leaders their own fighting game. I'm going to pick an array of gym leaders that seem the most capable of combat, and put them on an imaginary fighting game roster, along with a few I just like. I'd imagine this hypothetical game to be a 2D anime-style fighting game for a faster pace. While the gym leaders' main fighting skills would be solo, their Pokemon would come in for some attacks and super moves for that cinematic flair. Additionally, I'd imagine the fighters used their signature Pokemon as a special skill or attack, like powering up temporarily or accessing a special move that has a cooldown period, similar to traits in Injustice or drives in BlazBlue. I'll be using existing fighting games as examples of how moves would function in my B-roll and or commentary, so you'll see a variety of fighting games on the screen as I talk. As mentioned, I won't be covering every gym leader, so I'll just be picking a few from each generation. I'll be basing their movesets on their history in the games, anime, cards, and whatever other media they've been in. And to add an extra fan's perspective, I'll be joined by my co-host Judgment Meter to help me determine how lethal these leaders truly are.
That sounded so scary.
They can kill you with their fists.
Now, let's see if it's a good or bad idea to give the Pokemon gym leaders their own fighting game. We're starting off with an easy one. Lieutenant Surge is a trained military man, so he could have plenty of close combat grappling techniques. But the even easier part of his moveset is in his appearance. He looks just like Guile, only with less triangular hair. Some games he looks more like Guile than others, except in the anime when he likes to say baby a lot, or when he has more pockets than normal.
Look at all those pockets. That's the way I fit my medals. All the medals I've won from all the people I've destroyed.
What I'm getting at is, just give him Guile's moveset. He could feasibly use Sonic Booms, since those are attacks from Voltorb and Magnemite, both of which Surge uses. I could also see the Voltorb or Magnemite popping out of a trash can as a visual effect when using the Sonic Boom to reference the trash can puzzle in Surge's gym. Surge's special skill would be calling out his Ace Raichu to electrify his attacks. It could add some extra stun or power to his attacks temporarily, and for his super moves, what should we do?
So for his super move, he yells at all of his army people he trains and says, "You do a bunch of pull-ups." And then they start running, do their miles for their training, and then they just run over you.
Huh, that's creative. I was just gonna say copy-paste Guile into the game, add a Raichu, give him Lieutenant Surge's voice, and no one would know the difference. Just don't let Capcom know.
Hey, baby, yeah!
Can we get a more authentic Lieutenant Surge voice in here?
Oh, poor baby. Sonic Boom. Sonic Boom. Flash Kick. Somersault. Give him the Thunder Punch. Mega Kick. No Thunder Badge for you. Here's my buddy Raichu. You're gonna love this, baby. Thanks for visiting Vermilion City.
Koga is a professional ninja, so the moveset basically writes itself. Pick your favorite ninja from fighting games. Taki, Ibuki, Scorpion, Kasumi, Strider, they all encompass the general fighting game ninja game plan of using speed to put pressure on the opponent and get in quickly. Koga would probably have some weaker rushdown that builds up damage with how often you'd be resetting your opponent. Also, a ninja teleport is a must. You can't be a fighting game ninja without a teleport. I'd envision it to be Soul Calibur or Dead or Alive style, where you can teleport in place, forward, back, in the air, in ways where you can stay near your opponent but disappear for a second to add to your quick mix-up game. For some added flair, there will be a smoke bomb effect when he teleports, with a coughing doing a smoke screen. Perhaps a wheezing could appear if he does a certain version of the teleport as a visual indicator. He could also have a move where he uses the invisible walls from his gym to bounce off or redirect himself mid-air, either like Bang setting up his nails in BlazBlue or like Chun-Li's wall bounce. His special skill can be toxic, maybe setting up traps on screen with Grimer or Muck that poison the opponent temporarily when they touch it, or it can be a move that he loads into a kunai to add some poison damage to his projectile, or perhaps a bit of sludge or acid as a puddle on the screen that the opponent can trip on.
I'm not tripping on acid, you're tripping on acid!
Since his daughter Janine took over the gym after Koga joined the Elite Four, don't you think she should be in the game too?
She could be like the Phoenix Wright and the Maya, and he just like throws her at people.
I was actually thinking she could be a separate character, like a clone Echo Fighter of Koga. Maybe make her a bit weaker but faster since she's younger. To differentiate Janine from Koga, perhaps they could be like Ayane versus Kasumi from Dead or Alive, where they have similar movesets, but Ayane does not teleport while Kasumi does. Instead of a teleport, Janine can have a zipline move like Spider-Man in Marvel vs. Capcom, where she uses her Ariados to dash across the stage to represent her Gen 2 roots. As for their super moves, Ragnarok? Everyone loves good ol' Ragnarok. Sabrina was the main inspiration for this idea. She always seemed like she was the most overpowered human in Pokemon, whether you go by the game, anime, or manga, and that's especially for the anime. How did she keep her job if she's out there turning people into dolls and force choking her employees? The Indigo League officials must fear her. I'd imagine her to fight like Rose from Street Fighter and Ermac from Mortal Kombat, where she wouldn't need to lay a finger on you since she can just pick you up from afar. She could have Ermac's force lifts and force pushes, just like how we saw her toss people around in the anime. She could levitate too, along with teleporting to represent the warp tiles in the Saffron City gym. I could also see her with a projectile that's just a ball of psychic energy, along with a Psy Beam super move. Everyone loves a good old beam super. And maybe have her throw a spoon, since she loves to bend them, without touching it, of course.
Except when you said that, I was thinking, what do you mean she's just gonna throw spoons? She's gonna pick up spoons from the cabinet and just throw them at you. That's rude. But no, with your mind, that's a lot cooler. And much less rude.
Actually, come to think of it, her special Pokemon move could be Kadabra coming on screen to toss her a spoon to increase her psychic powers briefly. Maybe she can have them float around her as a hazard like Rose's Soul Satellite. Kadabra could also throw other items to float around her, like in the Sabrina's ESP card, specifically Pokédolls.
I do that when I'm mad. I just grab a stuffy and say, go away!
She'll also need an alternate costume that's her Heart Gold Soul Silver outfit. That is a great design.
She's really attractive.
Someone ship me with Sabrina.
No, don't do that.
Also, give her a move like that Anacharis attack where he turns you into a tiny thing briefly to reference how she has the terrifying powers to turn people into dolls in the anime. Her ultimate attack should be something cinematic, where she holds you in place and releases some angry psychic energy that destroyed her house as a child. Seriously, she was on a whole other level in the anime.
I won't go easy. You're mine!
KO.
Battlefield's where I belong.
Giovanni is possibly the most iconic gym leader due to being the original final gym leader and the boss of the main bad guys of Generation 1. Plus, he's transcended generations in both the game and anime, so he should be a lock for this game, even though he's never really shown any fighting attributes. He's always had others do his bidding for him. As a result, I think his moveset would heavily rely on him calling out other Rocket Grunts and Pokemon to fight on his behalf, showing us how Team Rocket's rockin'.
Poke trouble, double trouble, big trouble's gonna find you.
He could have a move like Parasol's Egrets or Eliza's Bodyguards in Skullgirls, where a Rocket Grunt runs out onto the stage to either act as a projectile or a shield for Giovanni to show their expendability. In the manga, Giovanni was especially creative with his Pokemon, using his Beedrill to intimidate anybody in his way, so Beedrill could be many of his physical attacks for up close, swinging his hand stinger all around, kind of like how Naoto's persona floated in front of her only when it was being used in in Persona 4 Arena. He also used a Crobat for a quick escape, so maybe that could be a mobility flying move for him. For his own move, Giovanni could have a coin projectile a la Johnny from Guilty Gear to reference how he owns the Rocket Game Corner. For his special skill, I think Giovanni should call out Mewtwo in his restraining armor to hold the opponent in place for a bit with his psychic powers to open up combo opportunities. Only for a short time though, since Giovanni only had Mewtwo for a short time in the movie. His super move should reference how he's the ground type gym leader with his own Pokemon. One of his super moves could be a rock slide style attack where rocks fall from the sky after his Rhydon comes out and drills a giant rock. Another super move could be where his Dugtrio digs underground and then rockets upwards from below the opponent. His ultimate attack can be where his Nidoking and Nidoqueen come out for a massive earthquake attack, maybe even fissure. It could be a move that fills the entire ground with earthquake power, hitting any grounded opponent from anywhere on the screen. In the small glimpses we see of Chuck in-game, he's actually taking a fighting stance to go with his fighting-type Pokemon. In Heart Gold and Soul Silver, he takes what appears to be a karate stance. While it may not be as flashy as other characters, he could have a grounded karate-style moveset in this fighting game. Something like Ryu's melee attacks or a more elaborate Mishima-style moveset, with some stances that can lead into various punches and kicks galore. We could also have some grappling skills for Chuck, since the first time we saw him in the anime, he was wrestling his Machoke, showing that he's strong enough to go toe-to-toe with a Pokemon that has such immense power that it has to restrain itself with some sort of belt and jockstrap.
Today I learned that Machoke's underwear markings are actually part of his skin. It's not underwear. The more you know.
Oh, then just the belt restrains his power.
I too cry with my Pokemon.
His special skill would basically be a focus attack from Street Fighter 4, where his Poliwrath comes out to charge up an attack that you can hold and use to absorb one hit if you want, and if you hold the attack for the max amount of time, it puts the opponent in a crumple state when it connects. This would reference how Chuck gives you the TM for Focus Punch in the Gen 4 games, and the crumple state could represent how he gives you the TM for Dynamic Punch in the Gen 2 games, since that move confuses on contact, which could be the equivalent of the crumple state. For super moves, I think you could have the two references to his two gym puzzles. He can throw a giant rock Hulk style to reference when he throws the strength boulder in the Gen 2 gym, and he could have a move that cascades a giant waterfall on the opponent to reference the Gen 4 gym puzzle. Perhaps his Poliwrath can create the waterfall for a visual effect. Claire has this one animation in her Heart Gold Soul Silver sprite where she gives us the point, and I feel like that mixed with her design exudes the power of a fighter, or at least the final gym leader. Based on those heels, I could imagine a kick-based moveset for her that incorporates all the kick attacks of Ivy from Soul Calibur, right on down to stomping on the opponent while they're down. In fact, Claire should just go the full Ivy moveset since she had a whip in the manga. She uses it on Team Rocket, so she's not afraid to use it on humans. Just give her all the whip attacks from Ivy, whether it's a quick crack or a stranglehold. Her special skill should be where her Dragonair or Kingdra pop out to use Outrage, which would function like a burst in BlazBlue. It would just be a good get off me tool to represent how Outrage just encompasses the Pokemon using it. For super moves, maybe Dragon Breath, because she makes that joke that the attack was not referring to her own breath when she gives you the TM for it. Looks like it actually was.
You win!
Brawly is a fighting type trainer, so he's a natural to be in a fighting game. While we don't hear of his fighting prowess outside of his Pokemon battling, he takes a fighter stance in some official artwork and gives us the Knuckle Badge. So with all of that, I feel like he would be an aggressive brawler sort of character. No specific martial arts style, but a whole lot of punching with power, like Shenwu from King of Fighters. They even have the same hairstyle, so they were destined to fight like one another. For his special skill, he can use his signature Mr. TM bulk up, giving him a temporary offense and defense boost where he takes less chip damage while blocking. Maybe you could even break through armor while active like Superman's temporary power boost trait in Injustice. Brawly's other major character trait is that he's a surfer dude, so I could see that being involved with his super moves. He could have a Whelmer or some other Pokemon create a giant tidal wave for him to then surf on as his foe is bombarded with water. You might be thinking, why is he not the water gym leader with such epic water-related skills?
Why isn't he a water gym leader, Mr. Top 10 List?
Because, I don't know.
Oh, so they clearly messed that up.
Hey, if the man wants to flood the field so he can hang 10, then let him flood the field.
I'm gonna drown you.
Flannery is my favorite gym leader, so I wanted to include her even though she probably has no fighting potential, but I'll make her have it. I love when you first talk to her, she cannot decide on which type of cliche gym leader speech to give the trainer since she's still new to the job, which is made even better in the remakes when she has more facial expressions to show off her hamminess. Plus, she has a great design and a funny anime episode, so those are all enough reasons for me to give her a roster spot. Based on her anime appearance, she was a bit clumsy, like lighting herself on fire while training her fire-type Pokemon. She could be one of those accidental fighters that is doing something else in the arena that just so happens to double as attacks, like how Phoenix Wright worked in Marvel vs. Capcom when he was searching for evidence and sneezing as attacks. Flannery could turn her back to the opponent to pet her Slugma for an attack, and it could burst out a stream of fire that acts as a beam projectile. Maybe she pets her Macargo for a higher version of the flamethrower, acting as a light, medium, and heavy variant. She could also have a move where she accidentally lights herself on fire and runs frantically towards the opponent as she tries to put it out as some sort of rush move, like Mai Shiranui's Flaming Charge in the SNK games. Perhaps it could even be a command run attack that leads into various low or high attacks, depending on how she wants to extinguish the fire. Stop, drop, roll for low, jumping in the air for high, however she feels. Additionally, she could have a teleport attack where she goes down or up a steam geyser, like in her gym puzzle, and it acts like the Melina teleport kick, only she clumsily falls on her opponent to fit her persona instead. Her special skill could be feeding her Torkoal a piece of charcoal, and it sprays smoke on the stage to assist Flannery. When active, Torkoal could enable new moves for Flannery, like one that works like Smoke's Glide in Mortal Kombat, which would allow him to phase through opponents to keep them guessing as he turns into a puff of smoke. Torkoal could puff smoke as Flannery moves to give her a bit of stealth. For super moves, for some reason, I imagine her getting on her Torkoal and sitting on it like how Master Roshi got on his Flying Gamera friend in Dragon Ball. I'm not sure what she could do when she's on the Torkoal since it's a pretty slow Pokemon, but it's heavy enough where you could cause some damage when it hits you.
She crushes you with her fat ass.
Maylene is another fighting type gym leader who spars with her own Pokemon, so she's an easy fit for this roster.
It looks like she's been in a number of scuffles.
How many?
It looks like 2 because she has 2 band-aids.
While she doesn't overtly specialize in a specific fighting style, since she's so prone to putting her foot right in the camera's face, I'm getting a kick-heavy vibe from her, so I'm thinking Taekwondo for a moveset. However, more of a jury-style Taekwondo, where the moveset is called Taekwondo, but it's more of just unique kick attacks with some Taekwondo influences. Don't you imagine Maylene doing a dive kick? She uses Pokemon that use high jump kick, so it's only natural. She would definitely have a lot of speed too, but probably lack projectiles as a trade-off. Her special skill would be Drain Punch, her signature move, which would involve calling out her buddy Lucario for a second, gaining a short-term aura, and then whenever her punches connect in a combo, she gains a bit of health back for each hit before the aura wears off to represent the Drain Punch. For super moves, Bone Rush with Lucario comes to mind, where it's a few quick Bone Blade slashes, and an ultimate attack where Maylene does a flurry of fast kicks. Maybe even Lucario joins in on the pummeling. Crasher Wake is like the easiest moveset to make up. He's a masked wrestler, so give him a wrestling moveset. Something more like King from Tekken, since Crasher's a bulkier guy like King, but I could also see him having a few mobile wrestling moves, like El Blazer or El Fuerte. Basically, just give him a whole bunch of grappling techniques with some extended command grabs, like some of the most hype luchadors in fighting games. He needs to bring the high-octane energy to the fight that he exudes in his poses.
Looks like he's always screaming.
Well, of course, how else is he always going to be prepared to do the crash, crash, crasher wake chant? His special skill would be like Hakan's oil in Street Fighter, which would be in reference to his water gym leader origins. Similar to how Hakan oils up to increase his strength and range, Crasher gets doused in water by one of his Pokemon not just to show off his team, but to gain similar buffs as Hakan does. The Pokemon that soaks him can be random, since he loves all of them equally.
Oh my goodness, he has a whole shanty.
For super moves, honestly, just give him some flashy command grabs. Maybe a water splash effect when he slams the opponent down on the ground to reference how he's the water gym leader, but nothing too unexpected. Crasher is kind of like the anti-Brawly, where it's hard to find ways to implement water into his super moves.
You know what? He summons a tidal wave with his song.
With his siren's call, I summon upon the powers that be to make a huge tidal wave to cover the entire world.
But specifically this one opponent that has done nothing to me except piss me off.
We really like wasting water for these super moves, don't we? Byron is known as the man with the steel body, so let's make him a moveset based on that. He'd be a reactive character, whose moveset is counter-based, using his steel body to deflect the opponent's attacks right back at them if they hit you during the window when his counters are active. Punch him and he just puffs out his iron chest as the opponent hurts their hand on the counter. For countering projectiles, Byron can take out his Bronzor and it can absorb or bounce them back to the opponent, since Bronzor is a known insulator with his heatproof ability. And for some of Byron's physical attacks, he has a shovel. That's a blunt object that can be used as a blunt object.
So he kind of just like and then hides you in a hole.
It could also be involved with his special skill, where he uses the shovel to dig for fossils, which could summon little Pokemon assists that are revived from the fossils, like Cranidos or Shieldon. They can work like those little buddy moves that we see in various fighting games, where the extra character does something like a small run forward, which Cranidos could do, or stands in the way to disrupt the opponent that's trying to get in, which would be a good job for Shieldon. For super moves, maybe for one, his Bastiodon could do a massive charge forward that takes up most of the screen. Another super could be where he just does an assault with his shovel, similar to all the creative ways that Frank West thought to use his tools of survival.
Time to go to town! Die, die, die! Goodbye! Combo KO! You win!
Bryson was a professional action movie actor. He even injured himself while filming once, which initially caused him to quit acting, so I assume he tries to do his own stunts, which means he has to be trained in some form of martial arts, right? Well, I'm considering that. He certainly poses like he knows how to fight. Since he likes his exaggerated poses so much, I'm getting a Gen from Street Fighter vibe from him, who had two stances that allowed for unique attacks in each. Bryson could switch between his calm stance and stretched out stances, as seen in his animation, for different types of moves. Maybe even add in a standing on one foot stance like June from King of Fighters, as seen in Bryson's promo art.
I just want to knock him over.
Don't do that, it's mean.
But I want to.
One stance can be for close-up moves, while the other can be for more mobile moves that allow him to fly across the stage. I could also see him pulling bombs or other projectiles out of his incredibly large sleeve based on how he pulled items out from behind his cape or jacket in some of his movie roles. It would be like Shenko's random item projectile in Darkstalkers. In the anime, Bryson's Beartick appeared in movies alongside him, so I feel like he should be an assist to Bryson, coming out for some close-up attacks where he bears at you like Kuma from Tekken. Maybe for Bryson's special skill, Beartick's moves could freeze the opponent for a second, allowing for longer combo strings. This would be like Killer Frost's trait in Injustice, where she would freeze the opponent briefly with each hit while her frost meter was full. For his super moves, you know, Beartick can join in there too. Heihachi sometimes employed the help of a bear in his fights, so there's no shame in that.
それでしまいか。
Roxy is another one of my favorite gym leaders. I love the 80s, 90s punk rock aesthetic. That sold me on her. Also, that's a nice pun name. One of her bandmates is even named Billy Joe, and I'm not missing that Green Day reference. I'm not sure if her using poison Pokemon is another rock reference, but I'll take it as one. She would almost exclusively fight with her bass guitar. It's a heavy object for some melee attacks, and she can take a page out of some of the other guitarists in fighting games for some sound-based moves. Mainly Eno from Guilty Gear, but Dante's jam session could also inspire. I'm sure Big Band has a guitar hidden inside him somewhere too. I could see Roxy strum on her bass for some music note projectiles, or create sound waves that stun the opponent to open them up for combo opportunities, or the sound waves can also cause damage. Her special skill could tie her Poison Gym Leader title and guitar together, where for a short period of time, the sound waves become poison, putting a ring of poisonous reverb around her, causing proximity damage when her opponent is near her, like Noxious Reptile in Mortal Kombat. Or you can just say that's the scent of her Garbodor causing that. Also, that's no shade on Garbodor. I actually like him. The point is, if you go near Roxy when this is active, you'll take small damage no matter what. I feel like she has to do something extreme with the bass as the big finale with her super moves too.
Instead of smashing her guitar on the stage, she smashes it on your skull.
I don't know why, I just want all the characters to hit you with whatever they're holding.
Oh, I was just gonna say she strikes up the band and plays a little song with them. Less destruction to the bass in the end.
Also good.
Join the big band.
Rest easy, Sienna.
Oh, Marlin's another gym leader with a surfer aesthetic. Maybe we shouldn't include him since he would be too similar to Brawly's moveset. Marlin did come after him.
Ah, my man. Pure hotness. I love this man.
Yeah, but wouldn't Marlin just become a clone of Brawly in the end?
There's nothing wrong with this man, he's say-so.
But the...
Say-so!
Marlin would be similar to our Brawly moveset, but I think he could have more kick-based attacks, since he has to have strong legs for all that swimming he does. Also, to show off his pants design more. His special skill would be an inverse of Brawly's, where it debuffs the opponent briefly to represent him burning the opponent with a Scald move to lower the equivalent of their attack for a period of time, just like how Burns do in the main series games. For his ultimate super move, instead of bringing the waves to you, he brings you to the waves, where he jumps on his opponent using his battle intro animation and rides them like a surfboard into the ground or ocean that inexplicably appears.
Are you some sort of masochist?
Karina's pose alone could make for a good moveset. That high kick right there radiates Chun-Li energy. That being said, I could also see her going the El Fuerte route, where she focuses on a command run and can do various attacks out of it, with the running being replaced with her skating towards the opponent. We've never seen her without her roller skates, so she's probably worn them for so long, she's mastered how to start and stop on a dime. Just take El Fuerte's moveset and pretend he's skating whenever he does his little run, and boom, there's Karina's moveset. When she starts skating, you can do various kicks, jumps, or skating tricks out of the animation to damage the opponent. She can even do some Lucha Libre moves like El Fuerte, since she does use the master luchador himself, Ha Lucha. Clement has the look of someone who would be a zoner who goes ham. Besides the fact that he has the extendo arm and radar thing at his disposal, he's a known inventor who's always bringing in new technology. I haven't seen much of the X and Y anime, but I know he's basically an invention of the day kinda guy, so I'd say pick his best and have him go nuts, like Peacock and Skullgirls. Have projectiles that cover all angles and sizes like her, and each angle and size could be one of his inventions, inventions, like Peacock's boxcar bombs could turn into one of Clement's Poke robots, but he could also dial it back a bit and go for some classic zoning tactics. He can use his grabber arm as a normal move that can just poke across the stage, like Dulcim, or use it to do the old grab and slam from a distance. His little electric radar could be his special skill, where he uses it to attract Pokemon that fly around him that he can use as projectiles, like Batman's mechanical bats in Injustice. I guess he could attract Emolgas since he is the electric type gym leader, and I did say fly. Perhaps he can also call some Heliolisk for some ground projectiles as well. His super moves need to get creative with even more of his inventions, going even crazier, and of course have something where the extendo arm does something cinematic.
You ready for this? Go on, sucker! Ah! This?
Wulfric looks like he could destroy you with a mere fraction of his power, considering his bulk, arms, and pose, so I'm saying he could be a fighter on his intimidating aura alone.
I know nothing about this guy. He may be really, really nice. Who knows? Or he may be a jerk.
He's actually a nice guy according to lore, so we're the ones making him fight. And honestly, I would give him a classic grappler build solely based on his appearance. Couldn't you just imagine him lifting his opponent, tossing them into the air, and slamming them into the ground in a dozen different ways? I'd imagine he would have a skill similar to Solomon Grundy's Injustice trait, where he could chain command grabs in different ways to give himself different buffs, or do the opposite and give debuffs to the opponent. Similar to how Grundy randomly summons a swamp to dunk the opponent's head in to reduce chip damage that he takes, Wulfric could randomly summon his Avalugg to slam the opponent onto, and they get hit with its ice body to slow them down for a short period of time. For super moves, meh, just go ham with the fancy command grabs.
It's all over!
Well, since Gen 7 didn't have official gym leaders, it's on to Gen 8. I don't know about you, but Milo has the arms of someone who could put up a fight with ease and pulverize his foe with those tree trunks.
No, he's say-so. He's more say-so than the other guy.
They can both be wholesome, it's not a competition, and that doesn't mean he can't fight either. Don't you imagine him stepping into the ring?
He gives you a hug and unintentionally suffocates you until you pass out, and then wonders what happens.
And then we give him a full moveset, right?
Say-so.
Well, you heard it here. Milo would be so broken that he KOs the opponent almost instantly with his hug and would probably be nerfed in the first balance patch. Also, give him a Stampede of Wooloo. A viewer suggested that attack and we like it. Bee is a karate prodigy. That's her backstory, and it's pretty much something you'd expect from a fighting game plotline. She's trained from a young age to be this karate star with strict parents who kept a watchful eye on her, and in her young adulthood, she's very stoic, thus not to show any weakness in the ring, whether it's Pokemon or normal fighting. Since we know she specializes in karate, she feels very similar to Makoto from Street Fighter. Both are young fighters who practice karate, have a death stare in the ring, show little emotion, and attack with fast, clean movements that are as grounded in reality as you can get with a video game. For her special skill, I'm thinking of a universal counter move, like the 2-button counters we see in Persona 4 Arena, or Dudley's cross counter, where one of her Pokemon that knows Detect comes out to do the move Detect with her, allowing her to swiftly move towards or away from the opponent and follow up with an attack if they try to hit her when she does this. She physically trains with her Pokemon, so this seems like a good way to show their bond. They could also team up for her super moves, where she takes another page out of Makoto's book and releases all of her hidden emotions in a few quick attacks. Marnie may have not been the leader of the Spikemuth gym at the start of the game, but she was the successor to her brother and the leader by the end of it, so I think she counts. Plus, who doesn't love Marnie? She's innocent yet badass at the same time. Since she's a punk rock kinda girl in a punk rock kinda town, I feel like she would have some street fighting techniques, like in Street Fighter. Specifically Cody, since he didn't have any trained fighting style, he just socked you in the face, and Marnie looks annoyed enough where she would do that when provoked invoked too. Her special skill could be using her Morpeko to plant seed traps in the ground that either rain more seeds on the opponent or trap them in place for a second. If you don't use him for a period of time or do certain commands to buff him up, he'll turn into his hangry mode and lay a much bigger trap. Her big brother Piers, who was the original gym leader, could also be a clone echo fighter of Marnie, with his special skill being something like a sound wave that can stun and get powered up to cover more range the more he charges it, to reference how he's a singer. He can do it on his mic with his Obstagoon. For Marnie's super moves, besides some greater punches, I think a bunch of Team Yell grunts should come out to defend her, much to her dismay. Make it one of those super moves where the whole gang comes out for a pummeling.
You win!
And with that, I think we have a roster. I was thinking an Elite Four member could be the final boss, but there's a lot of directions you could go. Maybe it could just be Giovanni, but I'll leave it off here. So, what did you think? What gym leaders would you add to our roster, and how would they play? Any additions to the movesets that we did discuss? And what were your favorite parts of the movesets that we pitched? Let us know in the comments. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and we will see you in the next video.